I guess 2012 is the year, maybe we'll look back on it and we'll say, yeah, that's the year that the growth paradigm really ended. I mean, obviously there's still growth in, China, Turkey, India, the BRIC countries. There's still economic growth, but it slowed down this year. And in Europe, it stalled. And in the United States, there was a little bit of growth, And I think that people in the system are starting to understand that the good old days are not coming back. And they haven't really processed this in any meaningful way because their economic models don't work. Their financial policies don't work. I mean, everything is predicated on growth. And we don't really have the tools to manage an economy that isn't growing. So when we're talking about the end of growth, what does that really mean? And for an economist, the end of growth means that fewer goods and services are being exchanged for money. In our current economic paradigm, that's called a recession. And it means unemployment, and it means falling wages, and it means hardship. But it doesn't have to mean that. Already people are beginning to voluntarily reclaim parts of life from money, reclaim their time from work, and therefore, they can consume less of the things that they buy with money and work less for money. But does that really impoverish life? Not necessarily. People are beginning to value leisure more. They're beginning to value growing their own food. They're beginning to value taking care of each other without being paid to do it. Does it really hurt your quality of life for you and every neighbor on your block to share half the number of cars that you own now? Would it really hurt your quality of life to have only one exercise machine for every 10 households? So I think really what we need to let go of is the idea that growth is necessary for prosperity and for wealth, for a good life. The elites are trapped in their ways of thinking. In private, the opinion leaders among the elite, they're having their conversations. Publicly, they won't broach some of these more radical proposals. It's not even radicalism, it's just common sense, And if you're not weighed down with ideology and the apparatus of power and the institutions and institutional behavior, if you're not weighed down with those things, it's not hard to see what we should do. In Europe, I was in some places that haven't really been hit by austerity yet. And I was also in Portugal, I was in Ireland, where they're really directly feeling that, the old days are gone. People are looking back at that time with a bit of chagrin. They're not really blaming the global system. They're saying, yeah, we were living to excess, and now we're coming back down to earth like it was in the 80s, and the party's over. Yeah, I don't think it's going to take that much for the people on the street, the common people, to consider policies and agendas that are off the radar screen, that the elites would not consider. A lot of people, I've even been there, where part of you is afraid of this collapse and part of you kind of wants it to happen. And sometimes people even get addicted to these collapse websites, where every day you go there, you're looking for the latest bit of bad news, the latest crisis that's brewing, and just kind of hoping that today the stock market's going to have dropped by 50%. There's this kind of glee almost, even though another part of you knows very well that it would be catastrophic, perhaps. Like, what's it going to be like when your ATM card doesn't work and there's no food in the supermarket? But there's a part of us that wants that to happen because the world that we live in is not good enough. We have an understanding, a knowledge that the world is supposed to be much more beautiful than what's been offered to us as normal. Like, just the feeling like we can do better than this. I find that all the time when I'm driving in suburbia in the United States, and you get a bit of it in Canada too, you know, and just like these ugly big box stores, you know, and you're like, after 3,000 years of architectural development, is this the best we can do? You know, you see people working in these really tedious jobs, inputting data, you know, or scrubbing toilets, you know, and spending their whole lives doing menial labor. And you think, wasn't technology supposed to have liberated us from this? You know, when do we get to enjoy the fruits of thousands of years of culture and technology? Like, we can do better than this. And so it's quite natural that we want things to fall apart. It's that we want to get out of here and we don't know how. And people feel trapped in their jobs, trapped in their lives, trapped in just the society around us that kind of compels certain behaviors and certain kinds of relationships. You know, we want to live in a world where it's normal to make eye contact with people. We want to live in a world where people love their work and look forward to Monday, or maybe don't even distinguish between leisure and work. You know, like, why can't we have that? And we don't know how to get there, but we know it's supposed to be much more joyous and authentic and beautiful than what we experience as normal. And we feel trapped, and so we want it to fall apart, because then something new can be born.